Hello and welcome back to Elden Ring. This is part 25 of the run where we prepare for the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. Now, in this run, we will go through every weapon, shield, armor set, talisman, spirit ash, physic tier, and cookbook that you will need no matter what build you are creating. And in the previous part, we went through the whole open world part of the Mountaintops of the Giant. And in that part, the significant items we got were the Crimson Bubble tier, the Crimson Whirl Bubble tier, and one of the Cerulean Crystal tiers. And we also got a few golden seeds. We got some smithing stone 7s and an ancient dragon smithing stone. We also got founding rain of stars and Zamor ice storm. We got the smithing stone bell bearing 3, the ash of war troll's roar. We got Helfin Steeple, Blasphemous Blade, Rivers of Blood. We pointed out where to get the Death Ritual Spear. We got Hoslo's Petal Whip. We got the One-Eyed Shield, the Traveling Maiden set, the Vagabond Knight set, Hoslo's set. We got the Okina Mask. We got the Eye Surcoat. And we got Primal Glintstone Blade, along with Taker's Cameo. And here, starting from the Giant's Mountaintops catacombs, we can start making our way down, and we can head through here, getting all the items and goodies and whatnots. Here there's a Grave Glowwort 7, which may be the first one that you get if you haven't gone through every single catacomb, being very thorough. Here there have been 2 fights, and in both ones we took damage, but Blasphemous Blade and Taker's Cameo both give you health back upon killing enemies, and they do stack. So those 2 together can give you a ton of health back while going through areas, and can save you a ton of Flask of Crimson Tears. So they're very good together. And taking the elevator down, then sending it back up, as you can see, you get a little hidden elevator, and you can very easily just take it down, but I like to stand on top of it just because. Though here there's a Stake of America in case you die down here, which may happen as there are these enemies, which, as you can see, have a ton of health. Like, on this build, I have 40 strength and 42 faith. So my damage stats are pretty high, and the Blasphemous Blade I have at +9. So it's nearly fully upgraded. And it still took a while to kill him. Though there's a Grave Glowwort 8. And here we run into those fire traps and these like triple dart traps. But obviously these ones have a frost instead of the normal elements. So there's another Grave Glowwort 8. And you do not want to get hit by those. So you can knock that down so it doesn't shoot you anymore. Though there is a second one, so beware. And here, there's an illusory wall. And a Ghost Glowwort 7. And from there, we can move on. Might be good to knock that down just in case the enemy forces you to back up. Bringing them down, there's a random chance to get Watchdog's Greatsword, which is a strength-based colossal sword. And if you like to dual wield these, this goes very well with Greatsword, since you can only get one of that per run. Though here, you get the Fire Monk Ashes. And that's everything in this lower section. So, yeah. But there, as you can see, Icon Shield, Blessed Dew Talisman. Even though I took a decent chunk of damage from that final enemy, because movement takes time, you can use the Icon Shield and Blessed Dew Talisman to let that movement and let the time it takes for you to traverse. You can let these pieces of equipment just smooth over the damage. And they don't work insanely fast, but they do work fast enough to where you can stop for a second and see your health going up in real time. And there, we're at like half health. Again, half health. But Blasphemous Blade, Taker's Cameo, Icon Shield, Blessed Dew Talisman, they're all working together to just passively regenerate your health. Works super well if there's a ton of small enemies like this. Like, it works beautifully. And with that, we went from half health to full health without taking a single sip of the Flask of Crimson Tears. As I said, there's a reason I went with this build going into the DLC. Because it has decent damage and insane survivability. And I'm just going to throw that down for future reference. And watch out for the trap. Though, as I've said before in this run, if you don't like this build, don't worry, as in the final part of this run, I will be showing multiple other builds that you can start with. And I mean strength build, dex build, intelligence build, faith build. There we took a chunk of damage. But every kill gets his health back. and we're already back to full health, pretty much. Yep, full health. So, as I said, this build is extremely survivable, especially while thoroughly exploring areas, especially in areas where there are a lot of these smaller, easier to kill enemies. So, like I said, that's why I went with this build and took a bit of damage, right back to full. I don't think I've seen anyone show a build like this. There's a trap, so watch out. But as I said, I've never seen anyone use a build like this. It's probably been done, but I've never seen it from anyone else, which really baffles me because it's so powerful. Though, anyways, here you get a ritual pot, which if you've been thorough, means that you should be at 20 out of 20 cracked pots, 10 out of 10 ritual pots, 10 out of 10 perfume bottles, 8 out of 8 memory stones, and 3 out of 3 talisman pouches. Meaning that if you use any of those, you should be fully set up at this point. And here, you may recognize this room, the square room with 2 different paths to go. And there was a statue, and I threw down a rainbow stone. Though this is a second version of that room, so we're going to throw down 2 rainbow stones. And there, you can see there's an enemy below this elevator, though we will get to them when we get to them. For now, we can make our way up here. There's another one of these high health enemies, so we can take them out. I was lucky enough to get a second Watchdog's Greatsword. Lucky me. And here we get a Grave Glowwort 9. And if you don't care about Grave Glowworts, if you don't care about those normal Spirit Ashes, you can very easily just skip that section, because that's all that's there. Again, there's an enemy down there, but that's actually the way of progress. And the way of progress is the way to go last. So, we're just going to take out all the enemies. And normally, you have to fully kill those enemies to get them to explode. Watch out for the trap. But fire damage sets them off to explode early. And the Blasphemous Blade does fire damage, which is why they're exploding while still being at half health. Then here, there's a Grave Glowwort 8. And as you may have seen at this point, Greatswords are really, really good at stance-breaking enemies. Both in the heavy attacks and the guard counters. 1 to 2 tends to be enough to stance break enemies, which is another reason why this build is so good. Because not only does it have decent damage, not only does it have the opportunity for using lots of powerful incantations, not only does it have a ton of survivability and very low reliance on the Flask of Crimson Tears to keep you alive. Watch out for the trap. But it also has good stance break. So, like I said, there's a lot of things going for this build. Grave 7. But because this build has so many strong aspects to it, and so little weakness to it, that's why I'm showing it off, and why I'm surprised I haven't seen anyone else, like, promote it or go with it or show how to make it. Though here, as I said, this is the way of progress. Here we have the lever for the boss door. And here we are back to the one rainbow stone room. And from there we can make our way back up and to the left for the boss. And typically, I tend to skip the bosses unless I can kill them in like 30 seconds or less, just to save time. Though this is one of my favorite bosses in the Ulcerated Tree Spirit, and at least in the first half, I performed pretty well, so we can watch this. Here, I knew for sure that I was gonna be fine. There was no dying at this point. So, I decided to just trade blows, because I knew I could. Even though that made it a bit sloppy at the end. But beating the boss, got 48,000 runes, a golden seed, and Glowwort Picker's Bell Bearing 2. Which the Bell Bearing lets you get Grave Glowworts 4, 5, and 6. And then you also get a Death Root out of it. Which, don't forget to head off to the Bestial Sanctum and cash in the Death Root to Grank. As once you head off to Crumbling Fair Missoula, you can't do that anymore.
Death, I should feed. I won't find. I must. I won't find. I must. I feed.
Now, even if you've been thorough, you're going to be missing one up to this point, because the final one is actually in Consecrated Snowfield, which we're going to be going to after this part. Though for now, we can head off to Castle Soul, which is going to be our second of 3 destinations in this part. And there's a Wandering Mausoleum here. I like to knock it down because it is loud. And in here there are 2 giant enemies that, upon killing them, both drop a Somberstone 7. Though, as you can probably tell, they're one-time enemies. And I took them out before this recording, just for the sake of time. There was a golden rune 10. Here there's a smithing stone 5. And from here, you can head up the stairs. And if you just care about heading to the boss, then you can go that way. If you care about thoroughly exploring the area and getting everything, you can head this way, where there's a handful of freezing grease and a side path through this door on the left. Up this ladder, there is an item here. If I remember correctly, it's just fan daggers. I picked them up before the recording because I wanted to check something. And there's also an item here. If I remember correctly, it's just a golden rune. It's like a golden rune 10, I believe. Though here, there are these ballistas that shoot. They hurt a lot. And the thing I was trying to check was if you break them once, will they be gone forever? And the answer is no, which is kind of sad. But there's a smithing stone 6 and a painting. We will get to the painting, like, where the reward is at the end of this part. For now, I would rather continue moving through the area. Right here, you can jump up, and there's a warhawk, so be careful, as they hurt a lot. Oh, here you get a stormhawk axe, a strength dexterity based axe with a unique skill. And here you can drop down, you can take out the enemies, and then you can move forward. And don't forget that part of this build is the absolute monstrous strength of a great shield and great sword doing guard counters. It's kind of busted, and I'm very surprised that it actually got buffed. I don't want it to get nerfed, but it is very good. And here, you have a chance to get the Banished Knight's Greatsword, which is pretty decent. And here, there's a Sight of Grace, and a ghost person with an item. We will get to them in a minute. First, we are going to head out here, where moving forward, there's an item. Continuing on that pathway, there's nothing else. It is just enemies. So we can ignore that. We can turn around and head this way, where there's a smithing stone 5 and the ghost and the item. The item being the Eclipse Shottel, a dexterity faith curved sword with physical and holy damage and a unique skill. It is one of the legendary armaments. It is not a good one. It's not useless, but it's not something that really stands alongside the other legendary armaments in terms of strength. So, here, we can continue on. And dropping down here, there's a rune arc. And then over here, there's a room full of rats. So, be careful. Don't let the copy pastas get to you. And there is 3 smithing stone 7s, and I just want to point out, the rats brought our health bar to the same length of our stamina bar, and we're now full health. So, like I said, this build is very strong. And these enemies, the dual-wielding greatsword knights, are also very strong. Until they run up against this build. Because great shield and great sword guard counters are kind of busted. Again, I'm very surprised that that actually got buffed. Though, don't tell FromSoft that it's busted because I don't want it to get nerfed. Though there, we can get the Cerulean Ember Medallion +1. The +2 version is in the Moonlight Altar. So, you can already have a better version of that if you did Ronnie's quest. Though, continuing on, you can jump onto this, what is very loosely called a pathway, in order to grab a Somber Stone 8 before either running back to the Church of the Eclipse Site of Grace or teleporting back just for the sake of speed. Either way, you can head out, and instead of heading to the right, we can now move forward. And this enemy right here screams and spawns in some of these ghostly enemies, which we just took a hit from a great axe, but it doesn't matter because we're full health. Like I said, this build is very powerful, and we picked up a smithing stone 6. And here, this enemy spawns even stronger enemies than the first one. But if you just sit back with some ranged attacks, they don't scream, and they don't spawn those stronger enemies. So, yeah, pretty good to just have some kind of range. I typically have a bow, but I decided against it this specific run. Now, there is a shortcut elevator in case you die, and here, you might want to pop some buffs as this is a somewhat difficult boss, and just like the ulcerated tree spirit, typically skip these for the sake of time, but I really like this boss. Again, very good stun potential, or for stance breaking with this build. And again, got kind of sloppy with it near the end, because I knew I was going to be fine. But beating that boss gets you 90,000 runes and the Veteran's Prosthesis, which that is a strength dexterity based fist with physical and lightning damage and a unique skill. Not that good, but also not bad. Though you also get half of the Erdtree secret medallion here to get to the Erdtree. And there, finally, we are going to the giant conquering hero's grave. If you didn't watch the last part and you don't know how to get here, you start from here and you just head west, and it's a pretty straight line to the hero grave. And you can immediately drop a stone sword key in order to get into this room, which holds Flame Protect Me, which is an incantation that greatly increases fire damage negation. And from there, we can head down and show why great swords are kind of busted. Again, it baffles me that FromSoft actually buffs great swords. Which, don't get me wrong, I'm very happy about that, because I love great swords, but from like a balancing perspective, they're already one of the best weapon classes in the entire series. They are consistently top tier. So, I'm not gonna complain, but I will be confused. Though there we can get a Grave Glowport 7, and here we can bring one of the cat companion, whatever you want to call these things, into the light to kill it. And as you can see, it took forever, but the game finally forced us to take a sip of the Flask of Crimson Tears. Though, we were rewarded with a Grave Glowport 9 as compensation. And then just good to take those out so they don't chase you. Also, they can drop Smithing Stone 7s, which is very good. And here, again, having a bow is very good for shooting those to bring them down. But if you don't have a bow, there's still Moog Shackle, which also works. I'm not sure if that was intended, but it does work, and it's something you should do, as this little safe area has a very angry enemy. One that had a bit more poise than the first Fire Monk. Though, not enough. And here, I would suggest hitting this to bring it back up. Though I would suggest taking an immediate left so this doesn't happen. Because I forgot about that. Though moving on, you can drop another stone sword key to get into this section, which, as you can see, golden circle on the ground, which is going to be a sanctuary you can run back to, because after picking up that grave over at 8, 3 imps come after you. And with them dead, you can smack that trap back down, and that's why we sent it up. So here we can get the cranial vessel candle stand, which is a strength faith based great hammer with physical and fire damage and a unique skill. And if that weapon doesn't interest you, then you can skip the whole getting shot in the back with fire and dropping a stone sword key thing. Though, as I said, this run is for every build, not just the one I'm creating. So, getting it just for the sake of thoroughness. And here we can take the elevator down, we can send it back up. This provides us with a little hidey hole. We can pull the lever to bring the elevator back down, and we can sit in the hidey hole to find ourselves in this new area. Behind the elevator is a grave 9, so you might want to pick that up. And then there's another cat. And you can bring them down. Which, upon bringing them down, you can turn a corner to immediately find another one. Which is just lovely to see. Though, I decided not to skip this fight, and hopefully you'll see why. Again, I'm not going to say that great swords are busted, but great swords are kinda busted. Like I said, they perform everything super well. Damage, range, speed, stats, like stat requirements, scaling. They're good at everything. Which works very well because, unlike great swords, I'm not very good. So I can kind of rely on them. And I think a lot of other people can too. There you get the Giant Seal, which is a faith-based sacred seal that boosts Giant's Flame incantations. And you also get a Great Grave Glowwort, used to upgrade any normal Spirit Ash from +9 to the maximum of +10. And from there, you can drop down, you can make your way over here to where the second cat was, to get yourself a Grave Glowwort 8. And then you can make your way up this ladder. This will let you grab a Grave 7 and Grave 8, and then let you drop down here where the elevator was. So you can send that back up and you can pull this lever, sending it back up partially in case you die, partially to get that golden ring. Because as you can see, there's another enemy that requires the golden ring in order for you to damage. Since when enemies are in this shadow form, you can't damage them, in case you didn't know. And again, great swords are really good. Like, really, really, really good. Like, I'm kind of surprised that they didn't get nerfed, and I'm really, really surprised that they actually got buffed. Now, with that being said, here you can get a Ghost 9, and defeating that troll opens this door, allowing you to make your way down here to go fight the boss. And honestly, despite me popping buffs here, the boss is a lot easier than the normal cat enemies. Like, less health. At least it felt like it. Though, Ancient Hero Zamor goes down. We get 83,000 runes, the Zamor Curved Sword, and the Zamor Set. And the Zamor Curved Sword is a strength dexterity based curved greatsword with frost buildup and a unique skill, which is pretty good on paper. The only problem with it is that it's pretty short, and so it doesn't have much range. And then the set is on the lighter end of medium armor sets. So, okay-ish damage negation, but there's better. Now, with that being said, we did the Giant's Mountaintops Catacombs, we did Castle Soul, and we did the Giant Conquering Hero's Grave. And we got Banished Knight's Greatsword, we got 2 Watchdogs Greatswords, though those are random chance drops. We got the Eclipse Shotell, we got the Zamor Curved Sword, we got a Stormhawk Axe, we got the Cranial Vessel Candlestand, Veteran's Prosthesis, Giant Seal, we got the Zamor Set, we got the Cerulean Amber Medallion +1, though a +2 is available already. And we got the Fire Monk Ash, which it's a normal Spirit Ash, so generally not as good as these special Spirit Ashes. But from what I remember from using it in one run, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all. And we also got a painting. As I said, we can go do that. So here, the one just below Castle Soul, which we got last time, we can head here. We can head forward and to the left, heading west, maybe a bit southwest, all the way down until the bridge. Please ignore the giant skeleton. he's friendly as long as you keep your distance. So here, there's a guy pointing, and he gets you the Great Hood, as long as you got the painting. This is a hood that gets you 2 intelligence and 2 faith at the cost of HP. So, with that being said, that's everything in these 3 dungeons in the Mountaintops of the Giants. In this run, we will go through every weapon, every shield, armor set, talisman, spirit ash, physic tier, and cookbook that you will need no matter what build you are creating to prepare for the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. With that being said, I hope you continue to follow me through on this, and yeah.